You're listening to the Staging Sips podcast with Lori Fisher. This podcast is dedicated to helping real estate staging CEOs build healthy businesses that grow, flow, and thrive. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I am super excited to be here with you today. And today I'm talking a little more about tech, but also how to. I have been getting a lot of questions about how we specifically do certain things inside of our business. So I wanted to start with how we schedule a styling evaluation in our business. So this is going to be kind of heady technology. And so I just want to gear you up for that. You might want to sit with like a pen and paper and do all that stuff because it's, it might, you might need to write the steps out, but essentially there's kind of like we have 5 parts to our scheduling process. So let me talk a little bit about our home staging consultation. We call it a styling evaluation in our business because when I started the business in 2011, a lot of people thought that home staging consultation meant free. And I wanted to make sure that they didn't have any preconceived notion that this was free because in my business, I wanted to charge a premium for a styling evaluation because my goal was to give all of my intellectual property and not come back to stage. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but in the beginning of the business, as we've said time and time again, you are wearing so many hats and it's really best for you to be able to work with as many clients as possible so that you can develop your process and your system. And if you are only giving a little bit of information and then hoping to come back to work with people, it doesn't necessarily work that way. And it also takes your time. It's better for you in the beginning of the business to be able to guarantee your revenue a little bit more. And I say do that by creating a really robust consultation that the client can implement on their own. And then you don't have to worry about coming back and the time that it might take, especially in the beginning, if you want to offer, an occupied installation with inventory and things like that, the time to take to shop and do all of that stuff. So that's just my particular take on starting out a business, especially if you're not starting out with enough funds available to even get started with buying inventory and you don't have space to store it and all that good stuff. So if you just want to start with a nice, clean, clear, robust consultation / styling evaluation service, go for it. That's exactly how I built my business. That's how I started. Okay, so let's dive in though, because when you've got a styling evaluation service, the scheduling process can actually be more complex than you might think. Why is that? Well, what I have learned is that over the years, you're going to get a few types of clients. One is you'll get a seller who's going to book the appointment with you. They will also be paying for your appointment. Super easy. The second kind is a realtor who brings a client to you. In that case, there are a couple of different ways that realtors approach this. Actually, I think there's 3. So there's the realtor that likes to be completely full service and they like to schedule the appointment for their client as well as pay for the appointment. Then there are realtors who will pay for the appointment but want their client to schedule the appointment. Then there are realtors who don't want to pay for the appointment and they want their seller to schedule. That's a very easy scenario as well. Then there are the realtors who sometimes want to pay for their client and sometimes don't want to pay for their client and have the client pay. So because of all of that, it created a lot of just confusion sometimes in our administrative team for my office queen / logistics, like Wonder Woman, Catherine. And also for me, when I was first starting out, because I would never know who was paying. And then I was like, am I invoicing them? Am I collecting payment at the time of the appointment? And when we first started in the business, we didn't take credit cards. We only took checks. So then I had team and it was like, so are we requesting everybody mail in their checks? Is the team collecting checks and then, delivering them to me? And I had a home office at the time. Are they delivering them to me? Are they putting them in the mail? How does that work? So we decided it was going to be cleanest to accept PayPal. and or Stripe. And the way to do it was to have the client pay at the time of the appointment. This works really, 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 really well. So let's talk about that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about the ways, the logistics of getting all of this to work for your business. So we had some realtors over the years that when we changed to this model of that we request payment at the time of booking, we had some people who really did not like that and got very angry, frankly, with me and sent me kind of nasty grams, I'll call them, and said that it was unethical for us to take payment before delivering the service. And to that, I mean, what my thought was, and it was typically people who had worked with us before and had, sent a check or something after the fact. My thought process was, geez, I feel like that is a little bit questioning my integrity as a business owner, that we would actually take money from you and not deliver the service. Or if the appointment had to be canceled or rescheduled, not refund your money. So that was the first thing. So I thought, okay, if somebody that I've worked with already is questioning this and actually saying it's unethical, there are trust issues there. And that's okay for me if they decide never to use us again. And a couple of them have decided exactly that. That's the first thing. But secondly, we pay for things on Amazon all day long. In fact, I've got pillow covers that I ordered that I never received. And by the time I realized I had not received these things from Amazon, there was no dispute process. We pay for things all the time. And in fact, within the real estate transaction, many of the photographers you will find in your local area, if they are using a professional photographer, take payment at the time of scheduling the appointment. This is not unethical. It is not outside of the bounds of doing business. So if you have somebody that hesitates at that, that is a red flag, and that's likely a client that you just don't want to work with. So let me just clear that out. But anyway, by also not taking appointment ahead of time, what we found was that as we got busier, and as clients were booking us more repeatedly, if they were sending in a check to us, then we had a lot of administrative time on the back end, sending an invoice and then keeping that invoice open and having to continue to circle back to that until payment was received. And what would happen is, for clients who worked with us repeatedly, they wouldn't remember which appointments they paid for, which they didn't. They might not mark it on the memo line, which invoice they were paying for, what property it was. So we wouldn't necessarily know where to apply it. And it just is super, super confusing. So we've created basically what we call a booking funnel. And I'm going to share that with you today. Now, the tools that I use, you may not need to use these same tools. The reason why I use the tools that I have, and I'll point out when maybe you can use something different, is because I was trying to create this when there weren't the technologies in place to make this more streamlined. So like, for example, I don't use HoneyBook or Gusto or 17 Hats, and I don't know a lot about those platforms other than people use them and they love them. But I might have created a version of that before those things existed, or before the capabilities for what I wanted to do existed. So I just want to put that caveat out there. So you might not need to use as many pieces of technology to make this work as we did. But anyway, so like I said, we wanted to create a funnel process. We wanted to create a funnel process not only for the payment and scheduling, but also for the way that people came into our booking funnel. So I would get text messages from people wanting to schedule. I would get phone calls from people wanting to schedule. We would get emails from people wanting to schedule. And so Facebook messages for people who wanted to schedule. And so we wanted one point of, like, one thing that we could send them to, whether they called or texted or whatever way, that would get them into the process a little more seamlessly. So the first step was that we created a pretty link, is what you call it, a pretty link, which is where you can take an ugly link and turn it into something that's branded. So in our case, rethinkhomeinteriors.com/eval, because that was the appointment that we get requested the most in all of these various ways. So that's what we called it. You could call it consult or whatever you want to call it. So that's the first thing we created. And that's pretty links is what you use for that. Anyway, So what would happen is when somebody clicks on that pretty link, they go to what's called a landing page. And a landing page, as we talked about in Lead Magnet podcast, which was episode 27, we took them to a landing page, which we created in Lead Pages, leadpages.com. And that landing page has two buttons. One says, and it says styling evaluation. I am a realtor or seller. I would like to pay for the styling eval and schedule the styling eval. So when someone clicks that button, they go to our Acuity calendar. And we use Acuity because we love it and because you can schedule appointments with multiple team members. So we have a photo styling service that is 2 team members. So Acuity enables us to create a merged calendar with our team members, two team members or pairings of them. And then somebody can book for the earliest available that pair of team members have available, and it gets marked off on both of their calendars. The other nice thing about Acuity, as many of you probably know, it integrates nicely with PayPal or Stripe, depending on what you want to use. So you can take payment at the time of scheduling. Amazing. So that's the easiest part. So that's when the realtor and the seller are they're paying and scheduling. They're in one of those silos. But what happens in that little messy section where the realtor wants to pay, but the client is actually the one who's going to schedule the appointment? That was the problem we really needed to solve for. And that is this really amazing, genius next step. So when our client sees that landing page, the second button is, I am a realtor. I would like to pay for the styling eval, and my client is scheduling. So, and you can go to rethinkHomeInteriors.com/eval and you can see this landing page. There's nothing, it's very simple. So when somebody clicks that button, here's the process that takes place. That takes the realtor directly to PayPal. So we had set up a PayPal button for our styling eval service. And when they go to that button, they pay for that service. And when you set up your button in PayPal in the advanced settings, you can actually, it has a spot that says redirect URL. Like, where do we send this person once they've completed payment? Do you send them to a thank you page or do you send them to something else? So we created in Lead Pages, again, a contact form where it says, great, who needs to receive our calendar, and its name and email address. So when the realtor pays, they get redirected to that page to put in their seller's information. And that gets linked to Aweber. So that contact form for us is linked to Aweber, which is our CRM. And that triggers an email that gets sent that's like, congratulations on the start of your staging process. Your first step is scheduling your styling evaluation appointment with a member of our team. Click here to do that. So when that client clicks there's an Acuity calendar that they can see that does not have a payment link to it. It's considered free inside of Acuity. So in Acuity, if you want to use this process, you've got to create one calendar that has the payment, the fee for your team, and one that is complimentary. And that's how you set that up. So that is, in essence, our onboarding process to get somebody to book. So again, what that looks like is you set up your 2 calendars in Acuity, one with a payment link and one that is not linked to any payment. And then you create a landing page where you're going to either link to your Acuity calendar where they can pay, or you're going to link to PayPal. And then PayPal will redirect to a contact page, and that will link to your CRM to send the thing. So now you probably can do all of this inside one of those tools I already shared with you. I just don't happen to have familiarity with the internal workings of those things, but you might be able to do the thing that right in there, because now in Aweber, since we created this process in Aweber, I know in my CRM, we can create landing pages, we can create contact forms, and we could have really used only Aweber as the pretty much everything else besides the Acuity and PayPal. So anyway, that is what we solved in that process. I hope this gives you something to think about. And I'll tell you, it has made our lives so much easier because we don't ever have to worry about who paid for what thing and all of that. So it's super, super easy. So anyway, I hope that helps. In next week's episode, we'll be talking about the logistics of our actual styling evaluation once somebody has scheduled on the calendar and they've paid for that appointment. So anyway, I hope this wasn't too much of an overwhelming sip for you. I hope you have a wicked good week, and I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Staging Sips podcast. If you love what you've learned here today and you want to learn more about how to market and grow your staging business more strategically, I would love to see you join us inside of the Rethink You mentorship program. If you want more details and get on our waiting list, you can go to rethinkhomeinteriors.com/waitlist. Looking forward to seeing you in the classroom.